Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Bay Area Case Studies Virtual College Fair. This session is the Explore session. Before we get started, we do have a few housekeeping items to note. First, if you have any questions at all, feel free to use the Q&A button to type in your questions to the presenters at any time. They are there, ready and available to answer your questions. Your camera and microphone are off. You are muted and your video is off. The panelists can't see or hear you. There are more sessions happening, so feel free to sign up for more college presentations being offered at the same place where you registered for this one. And lastly, all sessions are being recorded and will be available a week from today at strivescan.com/BACS. We are currently in session 8. And this will be the order of presentations for this session. First is Dartmouth University. Second is Fordham University. Third is Kenyon College. Furman University. Fifth is Occidental College. And sixth is Texan Christian University. So without further ado, I'll get out of the way and introduce our first representative from Dartmouth University.
Great, thank you so much, Catherine. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with all of you. Good evening from here in Hanover, New Hampshire. My name is Allie Duke. I'm an Assistant Director of Admission here at Dartmouth College, and I'm really excited to be here and spend a few minutes speaking about life here in Hanover. Just as a reminder, this is really sort of the tip of the iceberg, so hopefully this will be helpful, but would also encourage you to sort of stay in contact with us after this session. I want to sort of start by rooting us in our triangulated location here in Hanover. So we're sort of nestled between Montreal, Boston, and New York City. Even though we are surrounded by cities, does not mean that we ourselves are located in a city. So Hanover is really sort of a quintessential college town. However, we are bringing folks together from truly all corners of the globe. So we have all 50 states represented, over 92 different countries. Our students speak 50 different languages. So it really is an incredibly global campus. I think it's also a really stunningly beautiful place to spend 4 years, sort of right on the line between the White Mountains and the Green Mountains. And it's somewhere that you can literally and figuratively breathe a little bit more deeply. If you like hiking, biking, swimming, skiing, all of that is available at Dartmouth. The Appalachian Trail literally runs straight through campus. So I like to tell my family that I hike the AT on my way into work every day. They don't believe me, but that's okay. Even though we are a bit more rural, certainly doesn't mean that your opportunities are at all limited. We're actually the largest landowner in the state of New Hampshire. We have an organic farm. We actually own 2 mountains. We're one of only 2 schools in the US that have a college-run skiway. We have a land grant up in Maine. We also have the Hood Museum of Art right on campus, which houses over 60,000 different items, which is one of the largest collections in New England. We have Dartmouth Hitchcock Medical Center, which is the only level 1 trauma center in New Hampshire and the largest tertiary hospital north of Boston, about 5 minutes down the road. So you are certainly going to stay very busy. Academically, we're a liberal arts school. So we throw that term around a lot, but here at Dartmouth, for us, that means that we're going to teach you how to think, not what to think. We really want to instill in you these critical thinking skills that are going to allow you to be successful, sort of regardless of what field you go into. We want you to be a problem solver, a teammate, a collaborator. We're the smallest school in the Ivy League at about 4,400 undergraduate students. We only have 2,000 grad students, so we are really sort of first and foremost focused on our undergraduate population. Last fall, we only had 5 classes over 100 students and 355 classes that were 20 students or less. So if you want to go somewhere, your professor is going to know your name, where you're from, what your dog's name is, what your favorite ice cream flavor is. Dartmouth is going to be a great classroom environment for you. We have a 7-to-1 student to faculty ratio. We also have a really unique year-round schedule. We're on the quarter system. It's called the D plan. And it means that you have really unparalleled ability to sort of make your education your own. So you might elect to do an internship in the winter. There's a lot less competition for internships. About 90% of our students will participate in an internship. About 60% will participate in paid research. And that's not just, in the lab or in a biology classroom. We have students doing research in the humanities at the Hood Museum of Art. So it really is going to be an interdisciplinary education where you are really encouraged to get outside of your comfort zone. You might be a chemistry major, but you have the opportunity to take courses in medieval and Renaissance studies or Italian. That's something that's really encouraged here at Dartmouth. We also want you to take what you're learning in the classroom and put it on a global level. So we pretty consistently lead the Ivy League for percentage of students that are studying abroad. Just shy of 60% will study away at least once, 30% twice, and actually 10% 3 or more times. That's in part because we run 50 or 60 different programs on any given year, and you don't have to go on a program within your major or minor area. And you are also able to start taking advantage of those programs as early as your freshman summer. I also want to spend a minute talking about community, because if there is one thing I want you to leave here this evening knowing about Dartmouth, it is that we are defined by our people. We have over 350 different clubs and organizations, so lots of ways for you to sort of find your home here. We have a housing community that's built sort of like Harry Potter houses, but not based on personality, so don't worry about that. This is a photo of our homecoming bonfire that brings together some of our over 80,000 active alumni who are incredible. We are pretty consistently #1 on the Forbes Grateful Grads Index. We're one of the top producers of Fortune 500 CEOs. So our alumni and our community really go out of their way to help Dartmouth students, and we have really strong school spirit. Briefly, I want to touch on affordability. Of the class of 2023, about 60% of those students were offered financial aid. That number is a little bit higher with the class of 2025. The average grant this year actually is over $60,000. So we love giving away money here at Dartmouth. We want to make it affordable for everyone who is admitted to come. We have a full tuition guarantee, meaning that families with typical assets, those are things like a house or a car, who make less than $100,000 a year, are guaranteed a full tuition scholarship at Dartmouth with no loans in your aid package. We gave away over $112 million between 2019 and 2020, and your aid travels with you when you study abroad. So if you're taking advantage of one of those programs, you don't have to worry about if the cost of living is increased elsewhere, because your aid package will actually grow and travel with you. So with that, I am going to sort of wrap things up. But as I mentioned, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to learn about Dartmouth. I will drop some links in the chat for you, but there's also a few QR codes here if you want to follow us and learn more. But thanks everyone so much for your time and attention this evening.
Awesome, thank you. The next representative is from Fordham University.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Ike Uche. I'm from Fordham University. Glad to share with you some information about our university. I have not given a presentation in a while because of the coronavirus, so bear with me. If I leave something out, please feel free to chat me in the Q&A if you have additional questions. But just going a little bit about what Fordham is like. It is a university in New York City with about 15,000 students, closer to 16,000 right now. We were founded in 1841, so we're actually the first private Catholic college in the Northeast, and we are a Jesuit university. So we have 2 campuses, one in Rose Hill, which is Rose Hill, which is in the Bronx, and it's our first campus. And the other is Lincoln Center, which is in Midtown Manhattan, and it was developed in the 1960s. So typically students are choosing among the campuses just because of their own personal preference. So they are very different. If a student wants a large campus with lots of trees, lots of grass, open space, beautiful Gothic architecture, then that student would love Rose Hill. We're also Division I athletics, and our club sports and intramurals are at that campus as well. If a student wants to be in a large city and right in the heart of the city, then they're going to love Lincoln Center. Lincoln Center is an urban campus. It's not untypical for a student to take classes in a high-rise. You will live in a high-rise. There's not as much green space, but we are very close to Central Park, so that's really nice for our students as well. And again, as I was saying, most students are picking their campus just based on their own personal preferences, but there are some majors that are only offered at one campus or another as well. So please check the major if you're that you may be considering to make sure it is offered at your campus. There are 3 colleges as well that comprise Fordham. So there's Fordham College at Rose Hill, which is the liberal arts college there. And then there's Fordham College at Lincoln Center, which is liberal arts, obviously, at Lincoln Center. And then the Gabelli School of Business actually has programs at both campuses. It's not uncommon for students to take classes at both campuses as well. So students can take up to 40% of their classes outside of their home college or home campus. So feel free to do that. In most cases, however, they're not required to do so. And we do have a shuttle service that will take students back and forth in about 30 minutes if there's not a great deal of traffic. So one of the things, of course, that sets Fordham apart is our location in New York City. It's a really important part of who we are. Our students definitely take advantage of the location, and that includes personal things like seeing Broadway shows, going to great restaurants, sporting events, things of that nature. But one of the things, of course, that sets Fordham apart as well is the opportunity to do internships. So being in a city like New York allows our students to participate in internships, not only during the summer, but also throughout the academic year. So for instance, there may be an afternoon, a Tuesday, when students aren't taking classes, and they can participate in an internship. And this is really regardless of the major that a student has selected. So about 80% of our students have participated in at least one internship by the time of graduation. The other thing I'd like to talk about is just kind of our academic programs. So we have about 70 majors at Fordham currently, everything from political science and English and the sciences, like physics and chemistry, biology, natural science, performing arts. We've got a program with the Ailey School for students interested in dancing. We have theater, communications are always our popular programs as well. So lots of different choices for students depending on their own personal interest. But one thing that's also true about Fordham is that regardless of what a student's major is, they're going to take classes from their core curriculum, which is a series of courses covering a number of different disciplines. So it's really designed to teach students the integrated nature of knowledge and the interconnectedness of the world. So students will take classes in philosophy, there's theology as well. Now, theology at Fordham is academic in nature, so it doesn't mean you're taking a class about how to be religious, but you're really learning about different religions from an academic standpoint. In fact, it doesn't even have to be on the Bible or on the Catholicism. And Catherine, that went so quickly. I didn't get, as I mentioned, I haven't done this in a while, but happy to talk to you students as well. But please look into Fordham if you have an interest in anything that I've said so far. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Just a friendly reminder that if you have any questions at all, to feel free to submit those through the Q&A. Our representatives are here and available to answer your questions. And if you have a specific one, please also note the school name. The next representative is from Kenyon College.
Thanks so much, Catherine. I appreciate it. I'm Chris Rennell. I'm one of the members of the admission office at Kenyon, and I will share my screen with you. Bear with me for just a moment. Excellent. So I'm happy to have this time with you, and I look forward to opportunities to work with all of you in the future. As you can see on this slide, Kenyon was founded nearly 200 years ago. We're a liberal arts and sciences college of 1,700 students located in Gambier, Ohio, which is 1 hour north of Columbus, the state capital and the 14th largest city in the nation. Kenyon is an undergraduate only college, and 100% of students live on campus. Our students typically come from all 50 states and nearly 50 different countries. 12% of our students come from Ohio. 20% of our students come from the New York City, Los Angeles, and Chicago metro areas alone. Gambier is a quaint tree-lined village of about 2,500 residents. Our campus is flanked on one side by a 500-acre nature preserve and the Kenyon Farm on the other side. And it's anchored by Middle Path, which is the main thoroughfare of our walking campus to which all other paths on campus connect. In our idyllic setting at Kenyon, we joined together to focus on very big things in a small, wide open space. And I hope that's represented for you in some of these pictures and others to come. On the left-hand side of the slide, you can see additional images of Middle Path. We meet on Middle Path throughout each day, and that really allows for a sense of connection and belonging among community members. In the upper right corner, you see an image of Pierce, our dining hall, our Hogwarts-esque dining hall. And in the bottom right, you see an image from our charming Main Street. And this is where our students, faculty, staff, local community members gather in shops, restaurants, our shared post office. At Kenyon, we really take the time to know each other, and it's evident in the relationships that we forge. So with this slide, I'll talk a little bit about academic life at Kenyon. There are 15 students in the average class at Kenyon. We have a 10-to-1 student to professor ratio. As I indicated, there are no graduate students at Kenyon. Our classrooms are highly interactive, regardless of academic department. In 1841, Kenyon became the first college in the US to implement the model of professors serving as academic advisors. So we've long known that teaching and mentoring are vital in each student's development. Our program is rigorous. Our students possess a genuine love of learning for its own sake. What's wonderful, though, is our students are intellectually ambitious and achievement-minded, but they're collaborative, not at all competitive with each other. With this slide, you'll see that we have at Kenyon more than 50 academic programs from which to choose. Applicants are not admitted to particular programs. All 50+ programs are an option for every student who's admitted. And students actually don't have to declare their major until September of junior year. We don't have a core curriculum, but we do have a limited series of distribution requirements to ensure breadth and depth of study. We actually separate the humanities and the fine arts at Kenyon. So students would take at least 2 courses in the same discipline in humanities, fine arts, social sciences, and natural sciences. And our students complete a senior exercise capstone experience as well. You may know about Kenyon's legacy as a writer's college. You may know the reputation of the Kenyon Review professional literary journal. Our curriculum is writing intensive across all disciplines. We give all our students the practice and the feedback they need to learn how to express themselves with clarity and precision and for different audiences. So we really believe that good writing is good thinking, and the ability to put words to ideas moves us closer to a shared understanding. While our academic program at Kenyon is rigorous, it's also designed that students can lead fulfilling lives outside the classroom. As you can see on the slide, there are approximately 245 events on campus in a given year. They really run the gamut from exhibits in our gunned gallery to performances in various theaters to lectures and film showings. We have approximately 150 clubs and organizations available. There's really something for everyone, from political clubs to Division III athletics to service organizations and a cappella groups, 13 of them, in fact, for a college with 1,700 students. At Kenyon, we attract students who want to shape the extracurricular life of the campus community. Our students love that Kenyon's the kind of place where you aren't pigeonholed. You're supported for crafting your own identity based on your academics and your activities. And though our students value expressing individual passions, they're highly people-oriented, highly relationship-oriented. Our students really enjoy supporting their classmates in their activities and being supported in turn. In this slide, you'll see some images of some of our famous graduates. Although our most well-known alumni tend to be writers, stars of the screen and stage, and political and social justice figures, Kenyon grads regularly go on to pursue careers in fields like education, law, medicine, and other STEM outcomes. Kenyon's a top producer of Goldwater Scholars, Fulbright Fellowship recipients, NCAA postgraduate scholarship winners, and students who go on to earn a doctorate in the STEM field. So there's no single outcome to which Kenyon students are confined after they graduate. I'm getting close to my 6 minutes, so for the sake of remaining in my time frame, you can see some matters here about admission and financial aid. We have 3 admission tracks: early decision 1 and 2, binding, as well as regular. We're a coalition and Common App school, and we meet 100% of needs, and we have a limited merit scholarship process. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. I'd love to hear from you, and feel free to look at our website to learn more. Thank you.
Very helpful information. Thank you. The next representative is from Furman University.
All right. Well, thank you very much. So Furman University, kind of small, we say bigger side of small liberal arts institution. We're in Greenville, South Carolina. You can see on the left-hand side of the screen kind of where Greenville is, about as far from the ocean as you can get in South Carolina. We're just south of the Appalachian Mountains, about an hour and a half between us and Charlotte, as well as Atlanta. So, and like I said, about 2,800 students. Furman, we describe it as bigger side of small. We are also primarily undergraduate institution. We have a 5-year master's program in English and chemistry, as well as a master's program in community engaged health and strategic design. We've got a couple numbers on the screen here to kind of give you a sense of what the Furman student experience would look like. We have over 60 areas of study on campus. Some of our largest programs are going to be pre-health, business, public health, politics and international affairs, just to name a few. As far as pre-professional advising tracks, we have the pre-health related careers track, pre-engineering, and average class size is 15. Your first year courses are probably going to sit mid-20s, but they're going to drop off pretty quickly thereafter. Participation is a part of every grade that you would receive at Furman. Professors will office hours where they're committed to being in their office, door open, and you can go in and get help with narrowing down that essay or paper topic, or going over the notes from last Tuesday because you got lost, or why did I get this grade, or whatever it is. But our professors are very connected to the student experience. When I'm chatting with visitors after their campus tour and ask how it was, that's one of the most frequently popping up things that they respond with is, it sounds like that relationship is really strong. And then on the bottom left, you can see we've got 100% of our students living on campus for all 4 years. And I think that's a pretty defining piece of what makes up the Furman experience for students. The fact that you and all of your peers will be on campus for 4 years. It's res halls for 2 years, and then on-campus apartments for 2 years. So you get this kind of transition there. And then about a fifth of our student body are racially or ethnically diverse students, come from backgrounds that would include our international students. In 2018, Furman welcomed our inaugural Chief Diversity Officer. 2017. In 2018, we released the Seeking Abraham report, which kind of evaluated Furman's historical connection to slavery. And out of that, got a lot of great recommendations for the Board of Trustees. Just last week, we unveiled the Joseph Vaughn statue in Plaza in front of our library. You can see it in my virtual background, wherever it is. But Joseph Vaughn was Furman's first Black student in 1968. So that was a day of celebration, absolutely. And then on the bottom right, Division I, across the board, we're in the Southern Conference. Furman was founded as a Baptist institution. We disaffiliated about 40 years ago, in our private liberal arts institution, like I said, in Greenville, South Carolina, founded in 1826. Kenyon had to beat us by 2 years, 1824. What can we do? And then the Furman Advantage is a program that we launched a couple years ago. And what it boils down to really is the first diamond on the left that you see. It's a promise that your 4 years are not going to look like your roommates' 4 years, or the person who sits in front of you in class. They're going to be catered to you and your goals and your priorities. The other 3 diamonds are kind of how we do that. So the high impact experiences that you see there. So that would be research, internship, and study way. Furman students have guaranteed access to those experiences with Furman Advantage. So it's a promise that if you want to do all 3 or 1 or 2, we're going to make it happen for you at some point in those 4 years that we get to have with you. And you're going to have the advisors to kind of know how and when to go about coordinating those experiences. Furman for years has had kind of the standard academic advising model, and it was great, is great, will be great, right? But with the Furman Advantage, we now are able to connect students to alums in the field that they're going into, mentors in our area, in the Greenville, South Carolina area. And all of those connections are made individually. So you being connected to one alum or one mentor in the field, they're all coordinated by, either we have a mentor coordinator on campus. The entire role for that professional is to make those connections. Your advisors, academic advisors, may also play a role in that. But what I really appreciate about it is that Furman isn't just saying, look, a great alumni network, go out and take advantage. You know, we're telling you how and when and with whom you're going to have these conversations to kind of piece together what you think that, you know, next couple decades is going to look like. And then the leading centers and institutes to explore and tackle issues. So that would refer to Furman's 4 main outward-facing institutes. We have the Institute for the Advancement of Community Health, which coordinates clinical observation experiences and internship experiences for our health students. The SHI Center for Institute for Sustainable Communities. The Riley Institute for Public Policy, Education, and Leadership. And then the Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. So we're really looking at, you know, not only what's happening in the classroom, but how are we going to kind of connect you to the bigger picture, right? And then 100% like residential, like we mentioned before, over 165 clubs and organizations, 4th fastest growing city in the country. We didn't even talk about Greenville, South Carolina, kind of bigger side of small, same way we described Furman. So I'd love for you to look into that. I'm going to put my contact information in the chat, as well as some options for how you might be able to connect at future events. So please don't be a stranger. With that, I'll turn it back over to Kathy. Thank you.
Thank you. We really appreciate it. Just another friendly reminder that if you have any questions at all, to feel free to submit those through the Q&A. Any questions about the application process, even a specific question for a school, you can also submit that through the Q&A, but we also encourage you to include the school name. We're now going to hear from the representative at Occidental College.
All right, let's do it. My name is Kenyon Terosa. I work in the Office of Admission at Occidental College. I am also a graduate of Occidental from the class of 2015, and clearly, I guess, enjoyed my time enough to slowly make my way back to Occidental. I wish I could be talking with you all in person for these case studies, but hopefully we'll get to connect next year, and I'm glad we can virtually this year. There's a lot that I would love to cover in this kind of 6-minute stretch, but I think the thing that's most important for me to at least talk about here is what I think makes Oxy most unique, and that's our balance as a residential liberal arts and sciences college that is located in a major US city. I think if we're talking about kind of what Oxy does that distinguishes itself from other institutions, that's really at the heart of it. If you think about most major cities across the US, the schools in those cities tend to be medium to large size kind of research universities. If you think of many of the incredible liberal arts colleges across the country, those schools tend to be either outside of a city or oftentimes more rural. And Oxy is one of a handful of schools that combines those two things. That gives you the benefits of a small, intimate residential liberal arts and sciences institution, while still allowing you to have the opportunities and resources of a bigger city. And I think that informs a lot of the different pieces of student life on campus. To put some numbers to it, we have around 2,000 students at Occidental. All of those are graduate or are undergraduate students, meaning that there aren't any graduate students on campus. So we don't have any TAs that teach classes. All the research opportunities are specific to undergraduate students. The average class size is 19, with a 9-to-1 student faculty ratio, really kind of emphasizing those small discussion-based classes where you're encouraged and expected to play a pretty active role in those conversations. Just to give a bit of a sense of campus and where we're at in Los Angeles, I always think that this map sort of gives a helpful picture of where we are. Depending on your familiarity with Los Angeles, we tend to be a much more neighborhood-driven city than a place like San Francisco or a place like New York. It tends to be pretty spread out. Oxy is in Northeast Los Angeles. So we have Highland Park and Eagle Rock as our kind of immediate neighborhoods that are really walkable, that students spend a lot of time walking to coffee shops and taco trucks and kind of spending time in the immediate vicinity of campus. But then you've also got downtown LA, Hollywood, all the beach cities within a short drive. I think Oxy is really well suited to the students who like the idea of going to a smaller school where you get to recognize a lot of the people that walk around. You get to go to a sporting event or a theater performance, knowing that you're going to recognize kind of familiar faces. But then it also isn't going to feel claustrophobic, because at any point you can step off campus and be a stranger or do an internship or do all these things that students, I think, appreciate about Los Angeles. As far as the different areas that we offer courses in, this is a list of the majors and minors offered at Occidental. We, I think, emphasize that students kind of create their own pathway once they're here. You come to the college technically undeclared, and you declare your major sometime during your first 2 years. If you know right away that you want to, study geology or study politics, you can declare your major right away. But students have up to 4 semesters to sort of explore different areas and try that out. By the numbers, the most popular majors on campus this year were economics, politics, diplomacy and world affairs, biology, critical theory and social justice, and sociology. We do have some majors that are relatively unique to Oxy. So I mentioned critical theory and social justice. Urban and environmental policy is relatively unique. Media arts and culture is our film and television program. So if there's a particular area that you're looking for and not seeing, definitely feel free to ask about it in the Q&A. I can speak more to that if we have that program. As far as what academics sort of look like at Oxy, as I mentioned, we really emphasize that kind of smaller discussion-based classroom experience. What we're going to do that's going to be a little bit different than many other liberal arts colleges is that most of your classes are going to have a component that involves going beyond the classroom. That you shouldn't take a class where it isn't immediately clear kind of why that material is meaningful or important outside of a classroom setting. The discussions you have should be relevant to something besides just an academic kind of setting. One of the great things about being Los Angeles is that most of the areas that you study have applications throughout Los Angeles. That ranges from theater classes that see a show every Friday and then bring an actor from the show into class on Monday to talk about their experience. You've got a marine biology class pictured here that goes trawling for fish in the ocean once a month. You've got a class in the bottom left that's studying gentrification in Los Angeles. So it really covers a pretty wide gamut. And whatever you decide to study at Oxy, there should be pretty clear extensions of that class outside of the classroom. Study abroad is a huge piece of that as well. Typically, about 3/4 of Oxy students do a program through our International Programs Office. Most of those students are doing your traditional semester abroad, but we also have students doing 2 unique domestic programs that I kind of cheat and include in that 3/4 number. One of those is campaign semester, where students work full-time on a political campaign and receive credit for that in the fall of an election year. And the other is our semester at the United Nations. Oxy is the only undergraduate school in the country that has a full-time residential program at the United Nations in New York, where 18 seniors spend the fall living in New York and working with part of the UN. I'm kind of going from there. Residential campus, lots of ways to get involved. And about 90% of our students do internships, some information on our class profile, and information on admission financial aid. You can find more info on our website. We meet 100% of demonstrated need. Come say hi in the fair later if you want to get to know more. Thanks, everybody.
Great, thank you. The last representative, but certainly not least, is from Texas Christian University.
Hi, y'all. Let me get my presentation up and running. My name is Amanda Johnston, and I'm with Texas Christian University in Fort Worth, Texas. And I'm really excited to talk to you all today about why students from California choose TCU as one of their college options. I really think it comes down to our size. At TCU, we provide students with that large college campus feel, but that smaller academic environment at a medium-sized university. So at TCU, we have a little over 9,400 undergraduates. So that means that we do feel like a big university in certain areas. Our size allows students to get that big NCAA Division I athletics. We're in the Big 12 conference. We are an institution that has a lot of access to undergraduate research or creative experiences. We're also a school that will provide students with access to internships, career services, and a lot of different resources that big named institutions often have available to them. And being in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, there's ample opportunity for our students. It is actually the 4th largest metropolitan area in the country, and Fort Worth, where we're based, is the 13th largest city in the country. So there's ample opportunity for our students. So while we feel big in those areas, what really drives students from California to our institution is where we feel small, and that's in the classroom. At TCU, we have over 115 majors. So when you take all of our students and you divide them up amongst our majors, our average class size is about 27 students, and we have a 13-to-1 student faculty ratio. So at TCU, while campus can feel like a bigger institution, that classroom, the professors are going to know your name. You're going to be able to connect one-on-one with mentors. And we do have a very collaborative environment at TCU. So we don't have any impacted majors. Once you get into TCU, you can graduate in 4 years, and you're going to have access to the resources that will support you academically. Our career services on campus really support students through finding those internship opportunities, and each degree granting college actually has a career and academic advisor to help you figure out what your opportunity is once you're done with your time at TCU. We like to say that your TCU experience is your foundation for whatever comes next. And that foundation needs to be built kind of with a strong background of a liberal arts and sciences education, with mentorship and access to advisors who will help you figure it out. So if you know that you want to go to graduate school, we're going to have resources for that. If you know you want to go into the workforce, we're going to have resources for that. But the reality is if you don't know what you want to do, we're going to have a support system to kind of help you get there. And a TCU community is a big part of that TCU support system. We do ask that students live on campus for their first 2 years. And there's just so much going on in our campus environment. In a non-COVID-19 year, we can have a duration, or we can have over 800 events happening in the duration of the school year. So that means that it could be anything from fun, like an academic program. I know our honors college has brought Bill Nye the Science Guy to come talk to our students before, to something just really interesting. We've had Sean and Catherine Lowe from The Bachelor come to campus to talk to our students before, to concerts and entertainment programs, to college game day. We've had them on our campus 2 years in a row, to just really fun events. In fact, a couple of weeks ago on campus, we actually had goat yoga. So students were doing yoga in the campus commons with goats. So you can socially distance from your friends, but you didn't have to socially distance from the goats. And that environment just provides students with a lot of opportunities. And there's ample school spirit. We're actually the only school in the Big 12 conference where students can go to any home athletic event for free. And so game day is a really serious thing at TCU. TCU is a university that reviews students for admissions holistically. And I think this is really important to talk about because at TCU, we want to build a really strong community. So when we're getting to know applicants in the admissions process, we look at everything in that admissions process. You kind of experienced this tonight in the case study process, but at TCU that's really important. And we have a do no harm policy in our admissions process. And because of that, and we recognize how challenging testing has been in California, and it's already proving to be even challenging for students this year, we've extended our test optional policy until the applicants applying for admissions for the fall of 2023. And when you apply for admissions, students also apply for our merit scholarships. There's not a separate application process. We're test optional for our merit scholarships as well. So again, there's no harm in applying to TCU test optionally. California is one of the largest populations of students we get outside of the state of Texas, and the majority of our applicants applied to TCU without test scores this year. And I promise you, they did just fine in our admissions process because of that holistic admissions policy. That's a lot of information about TCU. And I know that in this environment, we really can't have the one-on-one interactions that we like to do. So I really want to kind of show you guys how we say hello in Fort Worth. So if you could play along at home with me and y'all could give me a peace sign, kind of like you're fighting on, but at TCU, we fight on a little harder. So make that peace sign real angry. That's how we show campus spirit and school pride in Fort Worth. And so that's how we say go Frogs. So go Frogs, y'all.
Awesome, thank you. All great information shared from all our representatives. At this time, we're going to go ahead and pivot now into our Q&A portion of the session. We do have some time left, and so this is a great opportunity to hear from everyone. And so at this time, I'll invite all our presenters to turn on their cameras, to unmute themselves, and we'll go ahead and get started with the first question here, which is, what advice would you give someone going through the college search process? Again, what advice would you give someone going through the college search process? And we'll go ahead and get started in the same order in which you presented in.
Great, thanks, Catherine. I'm happy to kick us off here. I'll keep this brief so everyone has a chance to share. My piece of advice would be to be authentic, to be yourself. We do this job because we love getting to know you. We love getting to know your stories, what you care about. This is your chance to, if you're funny, be funny. If you're intellectual, be intellectual. If you're not funny, this is not the time to try. Be true to who you are and share that window with us.
Thanks, Allie. Yeah, I think most of you attendees probably were also part of the case studies program that we had a little earlier. And I found that it was really interesting. Most of you students, at least in the session that I was part of, were concerned that you wouldn't stand out in the college application process, or that that your story wasn't compelling enough. And I guess to that I would just give a word of advice that you should feel comfortable being yourself. The essay is really a chance for you to describe more about your personality and what you contribute to your school community. But it doesn't have to be anything spectacular. You can really write about the simplest of items. And as long as we get a sense of who you are, we'll be really happy with that. So I wouldn't be too concerned about having some really compelling story or something that seems dramatic.
It's my turn next. Thank you, Ike. So I guess I have two pieces of advice to share. First, on sort of a more philosophical or loftier level, I would encourage you students to examine colleges closely, conduct thorough research, and at the same time have a continuous process of sort of self-reflection about who you are, your interests, your aspirations, what you actually want from your college experience, and combine the two to ensure that you find a great fit. I definitely believe in fit for college experience. More practically, for juniors, please work on your college essay this summer. I think you will be so pleased with the time that you capture for yourself in the fall. So if at all possible, I know it's not exactly the way you want to spend your summer break, but I think if you were to return to college with at least a very solid draft of your essay in place, you'd be happy with the results the rest of the way through the fall and capturing that time in your senior year.
My piece of advice would be to ask your questions. And remember, I mean, it's a pretty remarkably low level of expectation as far as what you ought to know at this point, and that's exactly what we're here for. So think what you want, reflect on what you want out of this process, and then let us know, and we can showcase, what's going on our campuses.
I'd echo all that. If I was going to add anything, I'd say to try and save space to be kind to yourself in this process. That I think there's so much stress and anxiety that kind of gets rolled into the college search process, and to try and take time to practice self-care, that, you know, even if you don't get into the school that you're set on going to, know that most students end up loving where they kind of land and can't imagine going anywhere else for 4 years. So, you know, try and enjoy your senior year to whatever extent that you're able to, and try not to, you know, get too overwhelmed in this process, and take some moments to breathe and kind of relax and enjoy it.
Oh, I love that advice. That's so good. I'm going to second that. Definitely take some time to take care of yourself in this process. And remember, this is just one part of a larger life journey that you're on, and it's not going to define you as much as you might think it will. And there are lots of options out there. And then to add on to what Cody said, ask questions. And don't forget, at most colleges, you have an assigned admission counselor there to answer your questions. Utilize us as a resource.
Thank you all great advice shared. Again, all great information. It's always helpful to hear directly from those who work at the respective institutions to offer advice and suggestions. And so again, thank you all. And thank you to each of you for joining us. We have now reached the conclusion of this session. As we close, there'll be a very quick 4-question survey that will appear on your browser. If you don't mind taking a moment to fill that out for us, it'll be greatly appreciated. There are more sessions happening, so feel free to sign up for more sessions at the same place where you registered for this one. And lastly, all sessions are being recorded and will be available at strivescan.com/BACS. Again, thank you all and have a great night.